Shoulder labrum tears are one of the most common injuries that pitchers face. And there's a big reason for why this is happening, and it's not talked enough about in PT or in doctors' offices when we're going through different treatment rehabs or the option of surgery. So what's going on with this labrum tear is there's a couple of different types that can happen. Number one is going to be an acute injury that happens from like a fall or some sort of impact injury. There's repetitive overuse injuries that most commonly happen in overhead athletes like throwers, volleyball players, and other things that are moving overhead. So the two common types of tears that we are going to see are going to be a slap tear. And that slap tear is going to occur on the posterior or the back side of the labrum. So the labrum is this cartilage ring within the deep socket of the shoulder that gives it the stability that we need. So when that tears, it also impacts where the bicep tendon attaches into the shoulder because it's attaching around that same region, as well as some other muscles and ligaments that go into the shoulder. The other one is going to be what's called a banker type of tear, and that is going to occur from a dislocation. Most commonly, baseball players are going to have a slap tear just because of how we're using this overhead movement repetitively. Now, the common issue that is not addressed when we're talking about this is what is the position of the shoulder? Because we can go in and we can get an MRI and some of these other sorts of internal screenings to see what's going on within the actual structure, but that doesn't tell us why the structure is improperly positioned in the first place. So what I mean by that is most commonly baseball players are going to have some form of thoracic rounding where the upper back kicks forward and then the shoulder is going to internally rotate or hug across. When this hugs across, as it physically rotates the bone within the socket as well. So it changes where the muscles and the ligaments are at in relation to where they should be in the attachment point. So it's not like the attachment point changes in where it sits on the bone, but relative to where it should sit is it's not sitting in an optimal position. So when we go to physical therapy to try to rehab this injury, what you're going to end up doing is going to be shoulder strength work and scap strength work, which on the surface sounds great because there is an instability problem at the shoulder from this labrum tear. However, there's other things that are going on within the body that are contributing to why the shoulder is in that current position and why the pain is ultimately there. Remember, this isn't necessarily a strength problem, it's a position and an alignment problem. And unless we change the position or the alignment that you have, we're really not addressing the root cause for why there's dysfunction within your body to begin with. So what I mean by this and how this is all connected is, let's say you're a right-handed pitcher, right? And we have a slap tear at the right labrum. Well, your body operates on these X's. So your right shoulder connects to your left hip and your right hip connects to your left shoulder. So as we operate on these X's, that's what gives us this hip shoulder separation and kind of the rubber band effect that we have as we're rotating. So when we have a problem at, let's say, the right shoulder, there's also going to be dysfunction at the left hip. And if we don't treat the dysfunction at the left hip, we aren't putting the right shoulder in a better spot to stabilize itself. So oftentimes, like, these guys are going to have weak front legs, their front side is going to have to open them too soon, the arm drags, and now we're putting more stress into that area as a result of an inefficient movement sequence pattern. So when we're talking about the labrum, yes, we have to change the shoulder position, but it's not just about the shoulder. One of the really kind of common misconceptions that people have when it comes to a labrum tear is this is a super, super common injury that most baseball players face. Now, a level of tearing, let's just give it a random percentage. Let's say a 20% tear could be very painful for one person and not painful for another. So there's differences across the spectrum of what we have here. What is the pain that you're dealing with? What's the level of tearing that you're dealing with? How long has this been going on, and what other types of issues are present? All of these things have to be accounted for. It can't just be, hey, we have a labrum tear, let's go rehab it and do these certain exercises and you'll be magically fixed. If it was that easy, then we would have a lot greater return to play from this injury. So guys that opt for surgery, sometimes it's unavoidable, like, let's just say what it is. But there's a lot of things that we can do to prevent this and certainly get your body into a better position to make that surgery more successful. So let's say that you go in for surgery, right? And they end up repairing the labrum tear. and the symptoms start to feel much better? Well, yes, because we went in and we directly affected the damaged tissued area and we repaired it. So yes, it's going to feel better. However, just going in there and cleaning up the damage that's already done is not going to change why the damage occurred there in the first place. That is a result of your posture and the alignment that that shoulder was in and the stress that was being placed on it. So unless we change the position of it, the stress is going to continue to go into the same spot and you end up injuring the same exact thing or another thing around that same area from the stability not being there. Yes, your shoulder is stronger after you went to PT, but if it's not strong in a good position, then you're just putting more dysfunction into your body and creating more problems. So the way that posture goes about this differently is we look at the entire scope of your body and look at how all of these different joints are interacting with one another. So all the way down at the ankle is going to impact how that force is sent up the chain. And remember, baseball and almost all sports are going to be a ground force transfer up. So if that ankle isn't stabilizing us appropriately, that means our hip can't stabilize us appropriately, as well as how we move up the chain. So these problems that don't necessarily seem like big problems lower are going to be massive problems in the implications that they send up the chain with how that force is sent to your shoulder. So we have to address what's going on at the hip, what's the position of the knee, how is the internal rotation on the hip as well, because all of these different things in the ranges of motion and the positions that we get into are going to impact how that force is sent up to the shoulder. So when we take your photos, yes, we have to change the shoulder position and you're going to get some shoulder exercises, but we don't just strictly attack the shoulder because there is a problem at the pelvis, whether it's rotation, anterior pelvic tilt, external femur rotation. There's a bunch of misalignments that can happen at the center of the hub of the pelvis. But that area has to become a much more sound, stable unit for you for us to get the shoulder into a better position to move through these ranges of motion more fluidly. So if you're dealing with a labrum tear and you want to know more about how posture could help you avoid surgery, or how it could be an additive to all of the other rehab stuff that you're doing to give yourself a better advantage to get back on the field, click the link in the description and book in a call where you'll either talk to me or one of my team members about how posture can help you get back on the field and play at 100% again.